Life has an unyielding habit of testing us, not through comfort, but through friction. Negativity is not merely an obstacle. It is a mirror held up to our soul, revealing what we have yet to master within ourselves. Every time you encounter it, whether from a stranger's harsh words, a friend's betrayal, or your own inner doubts, it asks you one question: will you pass or will you react? Negativity is the fire in which your emotional strength is forged. If you immediately react, you hand over your power, allowing the moods of others to dictate the rhythm of your life. But if you pause, if you breathe, if you choose response over reaction, you step into mastery. You begin to realize that the test is never about the other person, it's about your inner stability. You cannot stop negativity from entering your life, but you can decide whether it takes root. An insult becomes a wound only if you open yourself to it. A challenge becomes chaos only if you let fear lead the way. The world will always have noise, but your mind decides whether to listen or to stay silent within. Passing the test of negativity requires more than endurance. It requires transformation. You must learn to transmute criticism into self-awareness, failure into learning, and resistance into resilience. You must be willing to look inward, to discover the places within you that still ache, and to heal them so they no longer respond to every provocation. When you learn to pass this test, negativity loses its sting. It becomes a messenger, pointing you toward parts of yourself that still need strengthening. And once you understand this truth, you'll no longer fear the test, you'll welcome it. For each time you pass, you rise above, becoming a person whose peace cannot be stolen, whose purpose cannot be shaken, and whose heart remains open even in the presence of shadows. Negativity is a mirror. It does not simply show you the world around you, it reflects the unseen corners of your inner world. Every time you encounter criticism, hostility, jealousy, or doubt, you are not only facing another person's shadow, you are seeing a reflection of your own. This truth is uncomfortable because it demands responsibility. It suggests that the irritation, the anger, the deep emotional reaction that rises within you is not caused solely by what is outside, but by something inside that resonates with it. When someone speaks harshly to you, their words do not pierce your peace unless they touch a wound that already exists within. Negativity latches onto insecurity like a hook finding a loop. If there is no loop, if there is no hidden doubt, no secret self-criticism, then the hook falls away. This is why two people can hear the same insult and respond so differently. One may carry it like a stone in their chest for days, replaying it in their mind, feeling its sting again and again. The other may hear it, let it pass through them, and remain unmoved. The difference lies not in the words spoken, but in what those words found within the listener. This is what makes negativity such a powerful mirror. It shows you where your armor is thin, where your foundations are unsteady, where your self-trust is still fragile. Without these tests, you might believe yourself fully whole and unshakable. You might live in the illusion that your confidence is complete. But the arrival of negativity reveals the truth. It shows the fault lines. And though this truth is uncomfortable, it is also a gift. For how can you strengthen a part of yourself if you do not first know where it is weak? It is tempting to treat negativity as an external enemy, something to be blocked, avoided, or fought. But when you do this, you miss the lesson. Every time you react with defensiveness, anger, or retreat, you are focusing on the person delivering the negativity instead of what is being revealed in you. The real work is not in silencing the critic, but in understanding why their voice feels so loud in your mind. The real battle is not with the world, but with the parts of yourself that believe the world's accusations. Consider how a perfectly clear mirror does not distort what it reflects. Negativity in its purest form reflects not just the actions of others, but the beliefs you carry about yourself. If someone accuses you of being lazy, and you are secure in your discipline and self-worth, the accusation rolls off like water. But if you secretly fear that you are not doing enough, that you are falling behind, then the words will echo in you, amplified by your own doubts. This is why some moments of negativity feel so personal, because they awaken the voices within you that were already whispering the same thing. To understand this is to gain freedom. You begin to see negativity not as a threat, but as an opportunity. Each time something stings, you can pause and ask, why does this touch me so deeply? What belief in me is agreeing with these words? You shift from defending yourself against the outer world to exploring the inner one. And in doing so, you start to reclaim the power you once gave away. Over time, this practice changes you. You become less reactive. Not because the world has become kinder, but because you have become stronger. Negativity loses its power when it can no longer find a wound to press on. When you heal the parts of yourself that once trembled under its weight, the same words that used to cut you now pass by like a cold wind. You feel them, but they do not harm you. This is not numbness, it is mastery. It is the quiet confidence of knowing that your worth does not shift with someone else's opinion. The mirror of negativity is not always easy to face. Sometimes it reflects truths you do not want to acknowledge, your impatience, your envy, your tendency to judge others. In those moments, it can be tempting to look away, to focus on the flaws of the person in front of you, rather than the reflection they awaken. But avoidance only ensures that the lesson will return again and again, in different forms, through different people, until you are willing to look directly at it. When you embrace this way of seeing, negativity becomes a teacher you no longer resist. It stops feeling like a personal attack and starts to feel like a map, guiding you toward the places in yourself that still need light. Even the most unpleasant encounters become meaningful because they point toward your own evolution. You may still feel the sting in the moment, but it will be followed by curiosity rather than resentment. In time, you might even come to be grateful for the people and situations that once provoked you. Not because they were right to harm you, but because they helped you discover the places where you were still holding pain. They became mirrors that revealed the parts of you that were waiting to be healed. And as you work through these reflections, you start to notice a remarkable change. The world feels less threatening, less heavy, less hostile. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. Your peace no longer depends on the silence of others, but on the steadiness you have cultivated within yourself. Your worth is no longer something you defend, it is something you embody. Negativity will still appear, as it always does, but it will pass through you without anchoring itself. You will see it for what it is, a passing image in a mirror, not the truth of who you are. And perhaps most importantly, you will learn to hold compassion for those who bring negativity into your life. For if negativity is a mirror for you, it is also a mirror for them. Their anger, their criticism, their envy, they too are reflections of wounds they have not yet healed. This does not mean you must accept harmful behavior, but it does mean you can see beyond it. You can choose to meet it with boundaries and understanding, rather than with the same reactive energy that once controlled you. Negativity will always exist in the world, but whether it controls you or teaches you, the choice remains yours. The mirror is always there, waiting for you to look, not at the image of others, but at the reflection it casts of yourself. And when you do, when you have the courage to see clearly and to heal what you find, you will realize that the power of negativity has never truly been in its presence, but in your perception. The next time you are faced with it, pause. Look into the mirror it offers. See what is reflected there, not to judge yourself, but to understand. For in understanding, you will find the strength to transform. And in transforming, you will no longer fear the mirror. You will welcome it, knowing that every reflection is not a verdict, but an invitation to grow, to strengthen, and to step more fully into the unshakable self you are meant to be. Reaction equals surrender. It sounds simple, but it carries a truth that can change the way you live. When you react without pause, you are not acting from your own center. You are allowing someone else or something else to control you. In that instant, your emotions take the reins, and your ability to choose deliberately is gone. You have surrendered your power, not because you intended to, but because you handed it over the moment you let external circumstances dictate your inner state. This is the quiet trap of reaction. It disguises itself as strength, as the desire to defend yourself, as the impulse to set things right. But in reality, it is a form of submission. The person who provoked you now controls you without even touching you. Their words, their actions, their negativity. They become the puppet strings, and you, without realizing, move to their rhythm. The more intense your reaction, the more complete the surrender. True strength is not found in being the loudest voice in the room or in striking back the moment you feel wronged. True strength is the ability to hold your ground without being pulled into someone else's chaos. When you react instantly, you are stepping into their battlefield, fighting on their terms, under their rules. You have left your own ground. And once you abandon your ground, you abandon your clarity. Think about a time you reacted in anger. In that moment, your words likely came faster than your thoughts. Later, when you had time to reflect, you might have realized you said things you didn't truly mean, or that you gave the other person more power simply by showing how much they could affect you. This is what reaction does. It robs you of the ability to respond with intention, replacing it with a surge of uncontrolled emotion. Reaction is often a symptom of a deeper wound. We react most strongly to things that touch something unhealed within us. If a stranger shouts an insult that holds no truth in your life, you may shrug it off. But if they touch a fear, an insecurity, or a painful memory, your reaction will be sharp and fast. In that moment, you are not responding to the present situation. You are responding to every past moment that felt like it. You are no longer in the present. You are reliving old pain. This is why reaction equals surrender. It is not just surrender to another person, but surrender to your own history. You are allowing the ghosts of your past to steer your actions in the present. And when this happens, you lose sight of what is actually happening now. You fight shadows instead of reality. To avoid this, you must learn to pause. The pause is not weakness, it is the reclaiming of your power. In the pause, you breathe. You give yourself space to feel the initial wave of emotion without letting it sweep you away. You ask yourself, what is really happening here? What is the wisest way forward? This is not suppression, it is mastery. Suppression hides the emotion. Mastery acknowledges it and chooses the best way to act upon it. When you pause, you shift from being a puppet of your impulses to being the author of your actions. You no longer give others the satisfaction of seeing you rattled, nor do you fuel the fire of conflict with more conflict. You act on your terms from your values rather than from the heat of the moment. This is the difference between living reactively and living intentionally. Some people fear that if they don't react, they are letting others get away with something. But restraint is not permission. You can address wrongs, set boundaries, and speak truth without surrendering your composure. In fact, when you stay calm, your message is clearer and your presence more commanding. The person who can speak without raising their voice is often the one who is truly heard. Reaction also drains energy. Every time you react to negativity, you are investing your emotional resources into someone else's agenda. You are letting them decide how you feel, and then you spend your energy defending or attacking, leaving you depleted. Over time, this creates a cycle in which you feel constantly drained and constantly at the mercy of others' behavior. The alternative, responding with deliberation, keeps your energy in your hands. You choose where to invest it, and you keep your peace intact. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is to see reaction as a kind of emotional debt. Each time you react, you are spending something valuable, your attention, your energy, your self-control, often on something unworthy of it. But when you respond instead, you spend wisely. You decide where your energy goes, and you ensure it serves your growth rather than your frustration. In mastering this, you will notice that you are less exhausted by people and situations that used to drain you. You will see how many moments in life do not actually require a reaction at all. Some things simply need to be observed, understood, and let go. Others require action, but action taken from a place of clarity, not from the haze of emotion. This is the essence of true freedom. No one can pull you out of your center unless you allow them to. The insults, the provocations, the chaos, they can swirl around you without ever touching the calm within. You are no longer surrendering to every push and pull of the outside world. You are steady-rooted and intentional. It does not mean you will never feel the urge to react. That urge is part of being human. But you will no longer confuse the urge with the action. You will feel the spark of emotion, and instead of letting it ignite a fire, you will hold it in your hands, examine it, and choose what to do with it. Sometimes that choice will be silence. Sometimes it will be action. But always, it will be yours, not something forced upon you by someone else's words or behavior. In this way, reaction is transformed from surrender into sovereignty. You move from being a passenger in your own emotional life to being the one steering. You stop handing over the keys to whoever happens to cross your path. And with every pause, every measured response, you strengthen your ability to live on your terms. So the next time you feel the rush of anger, the sting of insult, or the pull of frustration, remember this: the moment you react without thought, you surrender your power. But the moment you pause, breathe, and choose, you win it back. Not just in that moment, but in every moment that follows. For every time you choose response over reaction, you build a life where your peace is yours alone, untouched by the storms around you. Not in the things that happen to you, not in the circumstances you were born into, and not in the unpredictable turns of fate. Control is not about bending the world to your will. It is about mastering the choices you make within it. Every moment, life offers you a decision: to move forward or to stand still, to build or to destroy, to speak or to stay silent, to act in love or in fear. You may not be able to control the storms, but you can always control the way you hold the wheel. Many people confuse control with dominance over external situations. They imagine that if they could just change other people's behavior, secure every outcome, and predict every twist of the road, they would finally be in control. But this is an illusion, because the outer world is never truly under your command. You can influence it, shape it, prepare for it, but you cannot own it. What you can own, absolutely and without condition, are your choices. Your choices determine the quality of your life far more than your circumstances ever could. Two people can face the same hardship. One emerges stronger, wiser, and more determined. The other collapses under the weight of it. The difference is not in what happened, but in how they chose to meet it. One chose courage over despair, discipline over collapse, patience over resentment. Control is not in the event, it is in the decision that follows it. Every reaction, every step you take, every word you speak is a choice, even when it doesn't feel like one. Even doing nothing is a choice. The danger comes when you forget this truth and start to believe that you are powerless, that life is something happening to you rather than something you are actively shaping. The moment you forget your power of choice, you hand over control to everything outside yourself. People, circumstances, emotions, and even the random chaos of the world. But when you remember, truly remember, that you are always choosing, the entire landscape of your life changes. You stop waiting for conditions to be perfect before you act. You stop blaming others for every turn your path takes. You stop being at the mercy of moods and moments, because you understand that your power is not in the world, It is in you. Choice is the birthplace of responsibility, and responsibility, far from being a burden, is the foundation of freedom. If you are responsible for your choices, then you have the power to change your life at any moment by making a different one. You are no longer a passenger being carried along. You are the driver. And while you cannot control the terrain, you can control the direction, the speed, and the way you travel. Think of the small choices you make daily, the way you speak to yourself in your thoughts, the way you treat the people around you, the way you approach challenges. These small decisions might feel insignificant in the moment, but they accumulate. They build your habits, your character, and ultimately your destiny. The life you live now is the result of thousands of choices made before. The life you will live tomorrow is being shaped by the choices you are making today. There is incredible power in realizing that you can choose differently at any time. You can choose to stop feeding old patterns. You can choose to step away from people who drain your spirit. You can choose to break free from cycles of reaction and step into cycles of creation. You can choose to speak truth instead of hiding behind silence. You can choose to take the first step towards something you have been afraid of for years. Every single one of these is within your control, even when nothing else is. Of course, choice is not always easy. Often, the right choice is the harder one, the one that asks for patience, discipline, or vulnerability. It may mean enduring discomfort now for the sake of something better later. It may mean walking away from what is familiar to create space for something greater. This is why so many people feel they lack control. They want it to come without cost. But the truth is, control is forged in the moments when you choose the difficult but necessary path over the easy but destructive one. And here is the paradox: the more you accept that you cannot control everything, the more control you gain over your life. Why? Because you stop wasting your energy on the impossible, and you start focusing it entirely on the choices that are yours to make. You stop trying to control other people's opinions and instead control the way you show up in the world. You stop trying to avoid every setback and instead choose how to respond when it comes. You stop resisting change and instead choose how to grow through it. This shift from external control to internal control is the difference between living in constant frustration and living with a steady sense of power. When you base your control on choice, life stops feeling like a storm you must survive and starts feeling like an ocean you can navigate. The waves still come, but you steer with intention. You are not at the mercy of the tide, you are guiding your own vessel. Even in the darkest times, choice remains. You can choose how you speak to yourself in your lowest moments. You can choose whether to keep moving or to stop. You can choose whether to let bitterness take root or to keep your heart open. These choices might seem small when the world feels overwhelming, but they are what keep your spirit intact. They are what turn survivors into overcomers and overcomers into leaders. Every great transformation begins with a choice. The choice to stop tolerating less than what you deserve. The choice to stop running from your own reflection. The choice to step into discomfort because you know that is where growth lives. The choice to stop letting the past dictate the future. These choices build upon each other, creating momentum until the life you are living looks nothing like the one you left behind. And here is the quiet truth many never realize: control is not about having power over the world. It is about having power over yourself. If you can control your thoughts, your words, your actions, and your attitude, you can face any situation without losing yourself. You can walk through chaos with clarity. You can endure loss without losing hope. You can stand in the presence of negativity and not be shaken. So remember, control is not out there somewhere beyond your reach. It is here, in the moment you are living right now, in the decision you are about to make. No matter what has happened before, no matter what the world looks like today, you can choose. And in that choice lies your freedom, your power, and the direction of your life. Not comfort, not approval, not the illusion of a life free from challenges. The ultimate aim is to become more than you were yesterday, to rise above the patterns that have kept you small, to shed the layers that no longer serve you, and to step into the fullest expression of who you can be. Transformation is not a single moment of change. It is a continual unfolding, a slow but powerful reshaping of your mind, your heart, and your actions. It does not happen by accident. It happens when you stop chasing quick relief and start seeking lasting growth. Too many people spend their lives trying to avoid discomfort, only to find that they also avoid progress. Transformation asks you to do the opposite, to walk straight into the discomfort, knowing that it is the place where the old self begins to dissolve and the new self begins to emerge. Every challenge you face is an invitation to transform. Negativity, loss, betrayal, failure, they are not punishments, but catalysts. They strip away illusions. They expose what you have been hiding from. They force you to confront the truth about where you stand and what you still need to learn. In these moments, you have a choice. You can shrink back into the familiar, or you can step forward into the unknown and allow the experience to shape you. The first choice will keep you safe but stagnant. The second will be uncomfortable, but it will grow you into someone stronger, wiser, and freer than before. Transformation demands honesty. You cannot change what you refuse to see. You must be willing to look at yourself with clear eyes, to acknowledge the patterns that sabotage you, the fears that keep you from speaking your truth, and the habits that quietly rob you of your potential. This is not easy work. It requires humility, because you will see parts of yourself that you might not like. But without this self-awareness, you cannot begin the process of becoming something greater. True transformation also requires letting go. You cannot carry every part of your old self into your new life. There will be relationships, beliefs, and even versions of your identity that must be released if you want to move forward. This can feel like loss, but in reality, it is clearing space. You are making room for what aligns with who you are becoming, rather than clinging to what fit who you used to be. Letting go is not a betrayal of your past, it is an act of loyalty to your future. And here is the truth that few people want to hear. Transformation is rarely glamorous. It often looks like quiet discipline, lonely nights, and invisible progress. It looks like saying no when everyone else says yes, and yes when fear urges you to say no. It looks like facing the same challenge again and again until you finally break through it. From the outside, it may seem like nothing is changing. But deep within, the foundations are shifting, and one day, those inner shifts will become impossible to ignore. You will know you are transforming when situations that once triggered you no longer hold the same power. When words that used to wound you now pass by without sticking. When the habits that once controlled you no longer feel necessary. When your goals are no longer about proving something to others, but about fulfilling the quiet promise you made to yourself. This is the kind of change that cannot be faked. It is felt in your bones. Transformation is not linear. You will have moments where you feel you have taken 2 steps forward, only to be pulled 1 step back. Do not mistake this for failure. Growth is a spiral. You may revisit old lessons, but each time you do, you face them with greater awareness and strength. What once overwhelmed you will eventually feel manageable, and what once felt impossible will one day feel natural. The danger is in mistaking comfort for completion. Just because you have reached a place where life feels easier does not mean your transformation is done. The goal is not to stop growing once you reach a certain point, but to keep evolving, to keep becoming. There is no final version of you, only deeper, wiser, more integrated expressions of your potential. One of the most liberating truths about transformation is that it is not about becoming someone else. It is about becoming more of yourself. The truest version of you has always been there, beneath the layers of fear, doubt, and conditioning. The process of transformation is like uncovering a statue hidden under years of stone. Each challenge chips away at what is false until what is real begins to emerge. You are not replacing yourself. You are revealing yourself. But this work requires patience. Too often, people want instant results. They want to wake up one morning and find themselves transformed without walking the path that leads there. But transformation is earned in the small, consistent choices you make every day. In the discipline to keep going when no one is watching, in the courage to confront truths you'd rather avoid, in the faith to keep building when the results are not yet visible. And here is the beauty. The more you commit to transformation, the more life begins to mirror it back to you. Opportunities appear where there were none before. People who align with your new energy enter your path. Situations that once held you down begin to fall away. The outer world begins to shift in response to your inner change, not the other way around. There will always be those who resist your transformation. People who preferred the older version of you because it was more convenient for them. They may question you, criticize you, or try to pull you back. Do not take this as a sign that you are wrong. Take it as a sign that you are growing. The moment your change makes others uncomfortable is often the moment you know it is real. Transformation is not meant to please others. It is meant to align you with your truest self. And in the end, transformation is not just about you. When you change, you become a living example of what is possible. Your growth inspires others to believe in their own. Your courage to face your shadows gives them permission to face theirs. Transformation ripples outward, touching lives you may never even know about. So remember, the goal is not to simply survive each challenge or to return to who you were before it began. The goal is to be transformed by it, to let it shape you into someone more whole, more resilient, and more alive. The goal is to walk away from every season of difficulty not just older, but wiser. Not just changed, but elevated. Because in the end, transformation is the only real destination worth aiming for. Everything else, comfort, approval, the illusion of control, will fade. But who you become in the process will remain. And that, above all else, is the reward. It is one of the quietest yet most profound shifts that can occur in a person's life. At first, it feels almost invisible. You may not even notice it happening. But as you heal, you begin to realize that situations, words, and behaviors that once provoked strong emotional reactions no longer grip you in the same way. The sting fades. The tension loosens. What once could unravel your entire day now barely disturbs your peace. This is because triggers are rarely about the present moment. They are about the past. When someone says something that provokes you deeply, it often touches a wound that was formed long before that moment, sometimes years or even decades earlier. A harsh comment might echo the voice of a critical parent. A rejection might awaken the ache of feeling unwanted in childhood. A disagreement might stir the same helplessness you felt when you had no voice. Without healing, these wounds remain raw, and every small touch can reopen them. Unhealed wounds are like open circuits, ready to be activated by the smallest spark. A seemingly harmless situation can cause an outsized reaction because you are not only responding to what is happening now, but also to all the similar moments that came before. This is why you might find yourself thinking, why did that bother me so much? The intensity isn't really about the present. It's about accumulated, unresolved pain. Healing changes this. It does not erase the memory, nor does it make you immune to feeling hurt. What it does is transform your relationship to the wound. It closes the open circuit. It stitches the raw edges together so that when something brushes against it, it no longer sends pain shooting through your entire being. You may still notice the situation, but it will not dominate you. You can observe without being consumed. This kind of healing doesn't happen overnight. It is the result of facing what you have avoided. Memories, emotions, and truths that may feel heavy to hold. It often begins with awareness, recognizing the moments when your reaction feels bigger than the situation. When you pause and ask yourself, "What is this really about?" you start to connect the dots between the present trigger and the past wound. In this way, triggers become teachers, pointing you toward the places in yourself that are asking for attention. Healing also requires self-compassion. Many people punish themselves for having strong reactions, believing they should simply get over it. But a trigger is not a sign of weakness. It is a signal from your inner world that something still needs care. Meeting that signal with kindness rather than judgment creates the safety needed for real healing to happen. Over time, as you process these buried emotions, you begin to dismantle the power that certain situations once had over you. You stop living in a state of emotional readiness, waiting for the next hit, the next insult, the next rejection. Instead, you create more space inside yourself, space for calm, for choice, for perspective. When someone behaves in a way that used to provoke you, you can pause and decide how to respond rather than being pulled into an automatic reaction. This is one of the clearest signs that healing is taking root. You begin to live more from response than reaction. You are no longer a prisoner to every tone of voice, every sideways glance, every careless word. You can discern between what is truly about you and what belongs entirely to someone else. And with that discernment comes an incredible freedom. You stop taking everything personally. Healing also softens your perception of others. When you are less triggered, you can see more clearly that people's behavior is often a reflection of their own pain, not a commentary on your worth. This doesn't mean you tolerate harmful behavior. It means you stop letting it define you. You can set boundaries without carrying resentment. You can walk away without needing to prove your point. You can remain anchored in your own truth, even when others try to pull you into their storms. There is a certain peace that comes when your triggers lose their grip. Imagine walking through a situation that once felt like an emotional minefield. Only this time, nothing explodes. The landscape hasn't changed, but you have. You no longer walk through life anticipating pain at every turn. The tension that once lived in your body begins to ease. Your nervous system, once hyper-alert, learns to rest. You feel lighter, clearer, and more capable of meeting life as it comes. And yet, healing does not mean you will never be triggered again. Life will still surprise you, and certain situations may still bring discomfort. The difference is that you now have the tools to meet those moments with awareness and choice. Instead of spiraling, you can ground yourself. Instead of shutting down, you can stay present. Instead of reacting from an old wound, you can respond from your healed self. This is where the deeper transformation lies, not in avoiding every trigger, but in becoming someone who can face them without losing themselves. You no longer fear certain conversations, environments, or relationships because you trust yourself to handle what comes. That trust is one of the greatest gifts healing gives you. And perhaps most beautifully, as your triggers diminish, your capacity for joy expands. When you are no longer constantly bracing for the next emotional blow, you become more open to life. You notice beauty where you once only saw threat. You laugh more easily. You feel more connected to others, because you are no longer filtering every interaction through a lens of old pain. Healing reduces triggers, but it also does something even greater. It gives you back your life. The moments you once lost to overthinking, replaying, and defending yourself are now available for living. The energy you once spent protecting your wounds is now free for creating, connecting, and growing. You are no longer defined by your past, nor are you held hostage by it. In the end, healing is not about becoming untouchable. It is about becoming unshakable. It is about standing in the same world that once overwhelmed you and feeling, deep in your bones, that you are safe within yourself. When your triggers no longer dictate your actions, you are no longer at the mercy of the past. You are fully here, fully alive, and fully free to choose the life you want to live. Life has a way of sending us trials that seem, at first, like punishments. We call them setbacks, problems, and misfortunes. They disrupt our plans, challenge our patience, and push us to the edge of what we think we can handle. In the moment, they rarely feel like lessons, they feel like obstacles. But with time and perspective, we begin to realize that every test has been quietly shaping us, teaching us, and preparing us for the person we are meant to become. A test in life is anything that forces you to confront yourself. It might be an external challenge, a relationship breaking apart, a career path collapsing, a financial hardship, or a sudden change you never saw coming. It might also be an internal challenge, self-doubt, fear, or the weight of an old wound resurfacing. Whatever form it takes, the test arrives to measure not just your knowledge, but your resilience, your perspective, and your willingness to grow. At first, we often resist the test. We want it to go away. We tell ourselves, if only this wasn't happening, I could finally move forward. But this is the illusion. The test itself is the path forward. Without it, there is no growth, no depth, no real mastery of self. The very thing we try to avoid is the thing that holds the key to our transformation. When the test becomes the teacher, the way you see challenges changes forever. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this here to teach me? That simple shift turns frustration into curiosity. Instead of feeling like a victim of circumstance, you become an active participant in your own evolution. You realize that the test is not here to break you. It is here to reveal you. And what does it reveal? It reveals the parts of you that are still fragile, the beliefs that no longer serve you, and the patterns you repeat without even realizing it. If a situation keeps reappearing in your life, it is not coincidence. It is the same test in a different form, asking you to learn the lesson you avoided before. Until you face it, it will return, again and again, with increasing intensity. Life is patient in this way. It will keep giving you opportunities to grow until you take them. But once you choose to learn, the test transforms. It stops feeling like a punishment and starts feeling like a conversation. You begin to see that the people who challenge you are often mirrors showing you where you need boundaries, patience, or compassion. You see that failures are not dead ends but signposts, pointing you toward better directions. You see that discomfort is not a sign to stop, but a signal that you are stepping beyond your comfort zone into the territory where growth actually happens. Every teacher leaves an imprint, and so do life's tests. A difficult season may teach you endurance you didn't know you had. A betrayal may teach you discernment and self-respect. A period of loss may teach you gratitude for the moments you once took for granted. These lessons stay with you long after the test is over, becoming part of the foundation you stand on. They shape the way you respond to future challenges, allowing you to face them with greater wisdom and less fear. It's important to understand that the teacher is not always gentle. Some lessons come wrapped in chaos. Some arrive as heartbreak, humiliation, or loss. But the harshness of the lesson does not mean it is without value. Often, the most difficult tests are the ones that strip away everything that is false, leaving only what is real. They tear down the walls you built to protect yourself, not to leave you exposed, but to show you that your strength was never in the walls. It was in you. When you embrace the test as a teacher, you also stop fearing its arrival. You know that whatever comes, it carries wisdom. You trust yourself to find that wisdom, even if it takes time. You understand that life is not supposed to be free of challenges. It is supposed to be full of opportunities to become more than you were yesterday. Tests are simply those opportunities in disguise. Over time, you start to notice something remarkable. The same tests that once would have broken you now barely shake you. A criticism that once kept you awake at night now passes through you without taking root. A setback that once made you question your worth now feels like a redirection rather than a rejection. This is the sign that the lesson has been learned. The test no longer has power over you because you have integrated its wisdom into who you are. And here is the beauty. Once you have truly learned from a test, you become capable of helping others through theirs. Your own experience becomes a bridge for someone else who is still in the middle of the storm. You can speak not just from theory, but from truth you've lived. In this way, the teacher's role is passed on. You become the one who guides, encourages, and reminds others that the test is not the end, but the beginning of something greater. Sometimes, the most profound shift happens when you realize that life's tests are not just for your personal growth, but for the growth of everyone your life touches. The way you face your challenges inspires others to face theirs. The way you transform your pain into wisdom gives others permission to do the same. In this way, the test becomes a teacher not only for you, but for the world around you. The truth is, the tests will never stop. There will always be another challenge, another moment that asks you to choose between fear and faith, between giving up and growing stronger. But with each test you pass, your confidence grows. You no longer doubt whether you can survive, you know you can. And more than survive, you know you can emerge from the other side wiser, deeper, and more resilient than before. So when the next test arrives, and it will, welcome it. You don't have to like it, but you can choose to respect it. You can choose to meet it with curiosity instead of dread. You can choose to let it shape you into someone more capable, more compassionate, and more whole. Because in the end, the goal is not to live a life without tests. The goal is to live a life in which every test becomes a teacher, and every lesson becomes a stepping stone toward the person you were always meant to be. In the end, life is not a random sequence of events. It is an intricate dialogue between who you are and who you are meant to become. Every difficulty, every moment of tension, every shadow that crosses your path carries a hidden invitation. It calls you to stop reacting blindly and to start seeing with clarity. The struggles that once felt like personal attacks reveal themselves as guides, pointing you toward the very strength you doubted you had. Negativity, challenge, and uncertainty are not here to define you. They are here to refine you. They strip away illusions, test your convictions, and illuminate the parts of yourself still waiting to awaken. And as you walk through these trials with awareness, you begin to realize that the true victory is not in conquering the world outside, but in mastering the world within. Every test is a teacher. Every wound has the potential to become wisdom. Every ending holds the seed of a new beginning. The question is not whether life will challenge you. The question is whether you will meet those challenges with fear or with presence, with resentment or with understanding. Choose presence. Choose understanding. Choose to let life shape you into the fullest, most authentic expression of yourself. Because when you stop resisting the lessons and start embracing them, you don't just pass the test, you transcend it. And in that transcendence, you discover the quiet, unshakable truth. You were never here merely to survive. You are here to awaken.